question 40 of Prima Secunda, we enter into the part on the Treatise on the Passions, where St. Thomas Aquinas is going to spend about 9 questions and many articles, of course, talking about the irascible passions. And we know those to be hope and despair, fear, enduring, and anger. And so we have covered the concupiscible and now the irascible. And question 40 is one where he is going to group hope and despair together. There are 8 articles in this question, but he does ask some pretty interesting questions. In fact, one of the funniest articles, I think, in the entire Summa, as far as just the question itself, is in this question. I'll leave you hanging. I think it's Article 5, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 6, but we'll get to it here eventually. Article 1 says whether hope is the same as desire of cupidity. Okay, when we think of Cupid, we typically think of Valentine's Day and the little angel like this, but what exactly is hope? And so in this article, he is going to define hope, and it's going to have 4 characteristics. He says the species of a passion is taken from the object. Now, in the object of hope, we mark 4 conditions. First, it is something good. Okay, you can only hope for something good, since, properly speaking, hope regards only the good. In this respect, hope differs from fear, which regards evil. Okay, so what he's going to do here is compare hope with other passions to show kind of the difference. It's quite interesting. Secondly, it must be in the future, for hope does not regard that which is present and already possessed. In this respect, hope differs from joy, which regards a present good. Thirdly, it must be something arduous and difficult to obtain, for we do not speak of anybody hoping for trifles which are in one's power to have at any time. In this respect, hope differs from desire or cupidity. Okay, so that's the answering the question there. It's not a desire for something light or easy to obtain. I can't hope to have a pen, 2 pens in my hand, because that was a trifle. That was easy, right? And hope regards the future good absolutely, wherefore it belongs to the concupiscible, while hope belongs to the irascible faculty. Fourthly, what he's saying is concupiscible has to do with things that are easier to obtain. Remember, the object of the irascible is the arduous good, and so that's the difference. Fourthly, that this difficult thing is something possible to obtain, for one does not hope for that which one cannot get at all. And in this respect, hope differs from despair. It is therefore evident that hope differs from desire, as the irascible passions from the concupiscible, as we just mentioned. For this reason, moreover, hope presupposes desire, just as all irascible passions presuppose the passions of the concupiscible faculty, as stated above. All right, so the irascibles kind of build upon the concupiscible, which are more foundational, and then the irascible adds something to it. All right, Article 2, whether hope is in the apprehensive or in the appetitive power. Since hope denotes a certain stretching out of the appetite towards good, it evidently belongs to the appetitive power, since movements towards things belong properly to the appetite, whereas the action of the cognitive power is accomplished not by the movement of the knower towards things, but rather according to the thing known is in the knower. Okay, this is very fundamental. It's very important to understand this, is that the difference between, say, faith and hope, even in the theological virtue sense, which is not what we're talking about now, has to do with the apprehension of what one has faith in, as opposed to the desire for it. Okay, so you hope for something as you move towards it, but the cognitive or the apprehensive aspect of the human person has to, first of all, know what you're hoping for in the first place. This is interesting, whether hope is in dumb animals. I remember originally I thought, well, no, because hope seems to be more of a human thing. But Thomas is going to say, and we see this with our pets, that they do hope. The internal passions of animals can be gathered from their outward movements, from which it is clear that hope is in dumb animals. For if a dog see a hare or a hawk see a bird too far off, it makes no movement towards it, as having no hope to catch it, whereas if it be near, it makes a movement towards it, as being in hopes of catching it. All right, the sensitive appetite of dumb animals, and likewise the natural appetite of insensible things, result from the apprehension of an intellect just as the appetite of the intellectual nature, which we call the will. So what he's going to do here is he's going to say, with us, we hope for something and we can apply the will, which is an intellectual appetite. But with dumb animals, since they don't have will, they don't have the apprehension of universals, it takes another intellect, namely God, to direct them. Okay, so this is classic teleology, very Aristotelian teleology of dumb animals being moved towards an end. So they're not really doing this freely, they're doing it because God is moving them. 4 says, whether despair is contrary to hope. And I'm just going to kind of summarize this one because both hope and despair have the same object, which is the arduous good, whereas hope, it's good, it's future, it's arduous, and it's possible. Remember, he already said that with despair, one does not think it's possible. And so even though it's a good, you no longer think that it's possible for you to obtain it. So therefore, despair ensues. And so the object of despair is not an evil, it's a good, but it's a good that you don't think that you're ever going to be able to obtain. Article 5, whether experience is a cause of hope. The object of hope is a future good, difficult but possible to obtain. Consequently, a thing may be a cause of hope, either because it makes something possible to a man or because it makes him think something possible. In the first way, hope is caused by everything that increases a man's power. Riches, strength, and among others, experience, since by experience man acquires the faculty of doing something easily, and the result of this is hope. So if you have something that you hope for, and through your experience you have gathered enough confidence that this is actually possible for you to do, like let's say get a college degree or get a promotion at work, well, your experience is helping you to come to that conclusion that you can hope it. All right, so this is, I mentioned the funny article. This one is, I find it interesting that St. Thomas Aquinas asked this question, whether hope abounds in young men and drunkards. All right, it kind of seems to come out of nowhere, but he says youth is a cause of hope for 3 reasons. And these 3 reasons may be gathered from the 3 conditions of the good, which are the object of hope, namely that it's future, arduous, and possible. For the youth has much of the future before it and little of the past. Okay, so youth are young and they have a lot of the future ahead of them. Again, youth, on account of the heat of their nature, are full of spirit, so that their heart expands. And it is owing to the heart being expanded that one tends to that which is arduous. Wherefore youth are spirited and hopeful. Likewise, they who have not suffered defeat, nor had experience of obstacles to their efforts, are prone to count a thing possible to them. So they don't have enough experience to say, oh, I can't do this, right? They're still young, young and dumb, sometimes people will say, but at the same time, they haven't convinced themselves that things are not possible. 2 of these causes are also in those who are in drink, heat and high spirits on account of wine, and heedlessness of dangers and shortcomings. For the same reason, all foolish and thoughtless persons attempt everything and are full of hope. So interesting observation, and this is the Thomistic psychology at work, where we can better understand ourselves and some of the things that are going on within ourselves, or perhaps our kids, if we understand some of the basics of human nature. Article 7 says, is hope a cause of love? Hope can regard 2 things, for it regards as its object the good which one hopes for, but since the good we hope for is something difficult but possible to obtain, and since it happens sometimes that what is difficult becomes possible to us, not through ourselves but through others, hence it is that hope regards also that which something becomes possible to us. Insofar then as hope regards the good we hope to get, it is caused by love, since we do not hope save for that which we desire in love. But insofar as hope regards one through whom something becomes possible to us, love is caused by hope and not vice versa, because by the very fact that we hope that good will accrue to us through someone, we are moved towards him as to our own good, and thus we begin to love him. Of course, him he's using generically. It could also be a female as well. Whereas from the fact that we love someone, we do not hope in him except accidentally, that is, insofar as we think that he returns our love. Wherefore, the fact of being loved by another makes us hope in him but our love for him is caused by the hope we have in him. Okay, that is really beautiful. And here's a celibate Dominican priest, probably never experienced love romantically, but certainly felt love for his fellow man and people like Albert the Great and Bonaventure, whom he worked with very closely. Article 8, finally, whether hope is a help or a hindrance to action. Hope is of its very nature a help to action by making it more intense, and this for two reasons. First, by reason of its object, which is a good, difficult but possible. For the thought of its being difficult arouses our attention, while the thought that it is possible is not a drag on our effort. Hence it follows that by reason of hope, man is intent on his action. Secondly, on account of the effect, because hope causes pleasure, which is a help to action. Therefore, hope is conducive to action. Obviously, like this guy here going out for a run, you're hoping for better health or a better body or whatever, and so that's gonna move you to action, right? All right, well, that does it for Hope and Despair. We will continue with the Irascible Passions tomorrow with question 41 as we continue this treatise on the passions in prima secunda of the Summa Theologia. God bless you.